Thank you so much for inviting me. Well, in my talk, I want to talk not too much about projects, but about my personal way into creative coding and basically how it changed my life and what kind of influence it had on me and how it just all happened. So basically, this talk is about my story. It started out in 2013, and I was a student. I was studying at Münster School of Design, which is a very nice design school. So this is one of the rooms. And at that time, I was working as a tutor, or I'm not really sure if it's the right term, but assistant for a professor. So that was a very nice insight in this field of teaching. And basically today I know that in that moment, I made the decision to become a teacher, right? And I really enjoyed working there. I was doing a lot of stuff like, creating music videos and working with film, photography, but also typography and communication design. And it was a very, very inspiring and very interesting time there, right? So, but after graduating, I had the question in my mind, what do I want to do after studying? And I knew that it is impossible to access a job as a teacher or educator in a design university right after studying. So that's why I decided to do something. Let me just take out these ear plugs here. These are annoying. So basically, I was deciding to go back to my hometown because my father founded a design company for furniture design. And he asked me to join that as a marketeer. So that's the reason why I went back to my hometown, Paderborn, right? That's the place where I currently live. And most people think it's very boring. I think that's basically true, but it's a wonderful place to work creatively. You're surrounded by nature. I've got my best friends here, so I really like being here, right? And it turned out that, working as a marketing person in that company was not really what I wanted to do, right? So that marketing job was not exactly the direction that I wanted to go. And I became more and more unhappy with my job. But luckily, I had my music. And always when I felt not so happy, I just escaped into music and music video production stuff. And that's me in front of my setup. That is a live looping electronic music setup that is basically built of loopers, effect pedals, and synthesizers and drum machines. And I was playing some gigs in different venues and stuff, so that was really cool. And one day I just met Patrick Hübner, who's one of my best friends today, and he's in the audience, so hi, Patrick. And he's a super talented designer. He was working in an e-commerce agency, which he kind of built it up. And he was also very deep into programming. And as a successful designer, he was also quite bored of his job. So we thought about a collaborative project. And then the idea just popped up that he could make the visuals for my music. And that's basically how it all started. Because then I just showed Patrick the book, Generative Design, which I found in the library of the Münster School of Design. And he was hooked right from the first day. And it was really fascinating to see. Probably you know that book. It's about creating graphic design or creating visuals with code. And it was really interesting to see that stuff that he just came up with. Generative design, the book is basically based on a programming language, or it just teaches programming with processing, which is an amazing technology that you can download freely from the internet. It's open source, and you just can explore the possibilities of expression in the intersection of code and art, right? And that's really, really cool. I fell in love with that technology right from the beginning. And it was super interesting what was possible with that software. Basically, these videos are not by Patrick. These videos are taken out of my course, my first course. But they basically showcase how the things look that Patrick created when we just started creating that collaborative project, right? So as you can see, that there's complexity, right? There's something that would be very, very difficult to create with usual tools like the Adobe Creative Suite, for example. And that's how our live setup just looked like. Me in front of the stage, and behind me there was this projection of visuals, and that the interesting and the yeah, the unique thing about these visuals was that, they were basically audio reactive and generative. That means they just recorded the sound from the room and translated the sound into basically a graphic world that just happened behind me on stage, right? So that was really, really nice. And from that moment, we just started playing gigs, and we were just, playing in different venues and stuff. Not the huge ones, but we really had a great time. And we felt like this was an USP for a band project. And, after just a short time, some interesting bookings came in, and I thought it would be nice we thought it would be nice to scale the project and do a real band out of that. So, but what I want to point out here is a very, very important pattern that is basically very useful to describe how generative design works, right? So Patrick wrote a software that took the music and converted it into visuals, right? So he took some of the music and just converted it into visuals. Input, music, output, visuals, right? And as I already mentioned, this is a very useful pattern to create project ideas for generative design. 2015, Stefan Schneider joined us, one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's a really great drummer and fantastic person. And we just teamed up to create the Inuvic Collective, which was the name of the band. And we started booking some gigs, and everything went very fast, right? So we were, after half a year or something, we were really, every second weekend, we were on the road, and that was kind of exhausting, but it was great. We were playing in venues like Domizil Dortmund in a jazz location, and Juicy Beats Festival, for example. So that was very, very interesting. These are some of the shots that a friend of mine did for our live show, us in front of these visuals. But in that moment, when we started to scale the project, I felt super bored of making music. There was an inner conflict that I just experienced, because I felt this pressure of the band project on me. And at the same time, I felt like I was super, super interested in that stuff that Patrick did. So I did a very, very difficult decision, and I just broke up the Inuvic Collective project to follow my own path into creative coding and to follow this intrinsic motivation to learn creative coding by myself, which of course was a very, very difficult decision because, well, I just destroyed the world of my friends Patrick and Stefan, who just put a lot of effort into the band project. It was very hard, but I tell you, for me, it was very hard to really resist this, this new world that opened up there. So after a week or something, we just teamed up together again, Patrick and me. We just thought, okay, it would be awesome to really think about how we can go into that world together. And of course, I was not really able to write generative design programs. So that was the reason why we did something crazy. We rented a cabin in the woods of Witzenhausen, a very, a place off the grid, no internet connection, no cell phone connection, and took our laptops and just rented this cabin to learn coding. And that was the most productive week, or the most interesting week in terms of learning in my life, because basically it just changed everything, right? From that moment, I started to create these GIF files that I just posted on Tumblr. And just, within a few weeks, people started sharing them and liking them. I was getting a lot of feedback, thousands of followers and stuff. So that stuff just popped up on Instagram. No, not on Instagram, but Pinterest and Google. And that was really nice. So I was totally hooked, right? I was like, wow, I want to explore this world. I want to go into this. And luckily, it's still existing, this flame burning inside of me for creative coding and these unexplored territories. These are some of the GIFs that I've just posted. And here's a little show reel of the things that I've just created between 2017 and 2015 and 2018. So, just some experiments. Well, some of these things have already been applied to branding projects, but most of them were just self-initiated. Music video experiments, music visualizations. This is branding. This was a short film that I've just created. So many things that just hooked me so much into that nice world of creative coding. And that was awesome. But as I already told you, my dream, and I'm very proud that I today can say that I just achieved a part of this dream, was to teach and to educate young people. That's what I've experienced in my time when I studied at Münster School of Design. I felt like teaching is awesome. I just loved to work with these young creative people on their projects and, well, show them possible ways to get over the, well, obstacles in their creative process and stuff. So, 2017, I was getting an inquiry or an, request by a professor. I think he's in the public, Michael Pichler. He's in the audience. Hi, Michael. And he asked me to give a course on creative coding at the Hochschule Rhein-Waal. And for me, that was like, wow, that was exactly what I wanted to do. And basically, I was thinking about how can I. Well, I was just remembering how people teach creative coding in the Münster School of Design back in the days when I was studying there. There was one teacher, and there were about 4 students in the course. It was definitely not inspiring. He didn't tell them why why programming in creative coding is powerful and interesting. They just did some, geometric compositions, which is great, but they totally did not understand why that's useful and cool. And that's why I just created a project called Programming Posters. Oh, sorry. I just forgot to mention that I'm now freelancing and I'm earning my money with my own coding business, right? So I'm not dependent on the company of my father anymore. I just, started freelancing, and today I work for various agencies, various clients, but that's not really important at this point. Programming Posters was this project. And basically, it was like, showcasing the potential of generative design inside of the sphere of graphic and communications design. So, that was a very intense phase. I was working on this on a daily basis. I was really putting a lot of time and effort into the project, and interestingly, it worked out very well. Page Magazine released a 7-page article about this project. And from that moment, it just, went kind of, public. People just, they just seem to know what I do, and they seem to know me for my creative coding practice. And that was kind of the moment when everything went more larger, right? In a way. So, Programming Posters. Oh my goodness. I really enjoyed that. That was awesome. Yeah. Okay, cool. Today, these are the students at Hochschule Rhein-Waal. Some great people. It was an international course because it's an international program at Hochschule Rhein-Waal. There were people from Asia, from Russia, from Great Britain. That was fantastic. And I really love to go there. Even though it was very far away, complete for this 4 hours from Paderborn, it's really embarrassing to go there because they have no train station. But that's just a side note here. 2019, I was getting a request the question or the inquiry to teach at FH Dortmund. And as you can see here, were about 15 people. At FH Dortmund, there were 55. That was crazy, right? I was just getting into the room. There were people standing at the walls waiting for the course to start. So that was super inspiring. And I felt so empowered by that. And I'm super happy to still have contact to some of these people like Gian, Kevin. I really enjoyed that. Today, fast forward, I'm super, super happy and proud to say that today I am close to, what I wanted to achieve. I empower young creatives by teaching technologies in the intersection of art and design. And that's basically what I really enjoy. And doesn't green look like awesome on this animation? I love this. I like this slide. Anyway, I do workshops, I do meetups, I conduct meetups like the Creative Coding Days in the Netherlands with some amazing people. We meet with people from Berlin, Amsterdam, Oslo, Paris, London. So the Creative Coding Days are definitely something if you are looking for a community where you can, join people in real life who love creative coding. Check out the Creative Coding Days. I have 2 communities that I found on Facebook. One is Crazy Cool Developers. That's one I'm not really active anymore because I'm focusing more on generative design. And my new group is called Generative Design Research Network. And if you're interested in that stuff, just check it out. I do a lot of research. And especially in philosophy at the moment, I'm really trying to get my head around the philosophy of creative coding. and how to get people inspired and kind of experience the same thing that I've experienced when I started with that. And of course, my most ambitious project and this is my largest project ever. I'm building an e-learning platform into my website. So I'm teaching creative coding through online classes. And my goal is to be independent of any platform, like Udemy or Skillshare. I just try to build that thing by myself. And that's really an amazing journey. I really enjoy that. Here's some snippets from my course and also from my next course, which is going to be released in X months. I'm not really sure when I'm going to push that out. But the first course is focusing on the principles of creative coding and the basics of processing. And of course, I also take a deep look onto creativity techniques, how I approach that stuff. And I think that's very helpful for young designers and artists. And the second course is more focusing on typography. I've got a very long path in the planning, many courses that follow a specific curriculum that I'm developing at the moment. So this is an amazing, but also very intense journey, right? Cool. And because some people asked for it, I want to show you 2 more projects from my portfolio. One is called P5 Studio. And the idea behind P5 Studio is, can I build, or that was this question, the initial question, am I able to build a software and design software that can kind of compete with an Adobe tool to create a poster or some print design poster stuff, right? So I hope you get what I mean. So it's P5 Studio, and it's basically a web application that you can start from my website. Can go to the case study and click that project. And basically, this is a fully featured design application that can render high resolution posters. So it's also possible to record the design process on video, and it has a comprehensive user interface to create, to rotate images. Basically, this is a user interface and an application that is kind of applied to a specific visual system. And I think it's very interesting to question how design applications work today, because, huge companies are charging us a lot of money, and this is a new opportunity to, create own tools for specific projects. And has so many advantages. You can involve the community to get creative with a specific theme or something. So I love to explore that stuff and to question the status quo of the design landscape. Anyway, Lifeline is another project I want to mention here. It is about it is basically about my life, and I just created a database based on WordPress with all the events that had an influence onto my life, right? Everything that happened from a global and historical perspective, as well as a private perspective. So what I did then, I just, and I don't know if you ever have heard of a REST API, but basically the website is serving the data to a processing application. And the processing application is basically, visualizing that data on a timeline. Right. So this is a video that is generated with processing with the data that I just put into the application. And these are many different events from my life that happened. And of course, in the first years of my life, I've been born in 1985. There was not so much data, but as closer we get to the present, the more data will pop up there. Right, the Lahr Parade, Der Fall der Mauer, the World Wide Web comes to life, all these things that just had an influence. So the blue images are basically on a historical layer, and the red images are on a private layer. So these are the things that just happened in my personal life. That was a pretty amazing project. And I want to thank Luis Ferreira, who is a friend of mine, a very talented software developer who helped me intensively on this project during the creative coding days 2019, I think 2019. Yeah. That's it. Thank you so much. Here's my website if you want to check out my projects. I've not been talking too much about my projects, so here's a lot of stuff on my website. Thank you, and have fun with the next speakers.
Tim, thank you very much for the insights. It was super interesting. Obviously, we also have a few questions, actually many of those, which we want to talk with you a little bit about.
Sure.
In your presentation, you mentioned working with constraints also a little bit. Can you elaborate a little bit on this a bit more, and maybe also elaborate on the question, what are the benefits of working with constraints and parametric design?
That's a wonderful question. Constraints are an essential part of my creative practice. And basically, that's something, I'm currently thinking about a course for that, or as well for my e-learning platform, creativity techniques, because restrictions and limitations enable you to do two different things: to amplify your output, right, your creative output, and amplify your creativity, as well as amplifying the remarkability of your project. So that means if you restrict yourself to specific geometric shapes, for example, you will have, you are really focusing on a specific spot, and this really helps so much to amplify the creative output, right? And for example, the Programming Posters project had a very strict and very tight creative model that I've just followed. I was only using blue and white. I was only working with specific fonts. I was always using processing for the output, and I was always using the specific poster format. And as you can see in the project case study, everything was kind of, in the same visual space. And that's very powerful, I think.
Yeah, and also, if you think about brands, for instance, where you have maybe certain aspects or visual aspects, and then you kind of automate the design process in a way, it kind of also shifts how you approach the end result, I would say. So the process becomes more important, and I think that's a really interesting part of it.
Totally. I think so too. And we are talking so much about design systems, and, design systems are basically that. You restrict yourself to a specific set of decisions you did, and in the end, you don't have to think about them anymore. So you can focus on the real interesting stuff.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned the poster project again. There was this question. Seeing your project like the poster machine, you could think that you start experiments to learn new technologies and to explore new aesthetics. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you handle your curiosity and how you grind new themes?
I think at this point of time, it really makes sense to send a shout out to Thomas Traum, because I'm also a huge Ryan Holiday fan. And I also read a lot about philosophy at the moment. I find this very, very helpful to find my personal, not just my way in life, but also my way in my creative process, right? And what was the question again? Sorry.
If you use project as a possibility to explore new themes, new topics, and how you approach those. Because I can imagine for the poster project itself, it probably was also a lot of new coding stuff you had to learn.
Yeah.
But you had that aim to manifest it in one working app, and then that kind of is also the learning process, right?
Definitely. So I basically mostly create a very simple sketch of the creative system I'm working with, right? This restrictions thing we were talking about just a few moments ago. So I mostly just draw a triangle, and I call this technique the magic triangle. By the way, on my website, there's a video about that. So, and these triangles just represent three restrictions that I set for a project. And this is basically of the kind of the initial drawing that I always do for a project to visualize the idea. And then I build up on that, right? Then I just follow my creative intrinsic motivation to dive into things that I find interesting, but I always remind myself of the restrictions that I've set in the beginning. And basically that's it. That's it's very difficult. One example, there was a time in 2 years ago when I was thinking about my website all the time, like which font is the right one, how shall I style my navigation and stuff, right? So, but one day I just made some decisions about colors, fonts, and I said, okay, this is the creative system you're going to work with, because otherwise you lose so much energy and you lose so much so much power. And that is basically very helpful to make decisions and commitments and don't break them anymore, right? Saying something like, I use black and white for now, right? And don't break it. That's super helpful.
Kind of going with your gut feeling, which is also a good link to the music, I guess. I mean, you talked a lot about music, and it could appear that you use music also a little bit as an escape to grow as a designer then, on the other hand.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is also a good connection to a question from Lucas Esser in the chat. He wants to know if you have translating design principles from music to visual. So do you have any principles you can translate from the music to the visual approaches and ideas you have?
Yeah, sure. I've been thinking a lot about that. So let me just share my screen again here. Here we go. I think that's the desktop screen. So this is my website, and there's a project on it. It's called the Bach Project. And Johann Sebastian Bach is a fantastic musician, right? Probably all of you know Johann Sebastian Bach. And this is basically a project where I just try to visualize the prelude in C, right? And the prelude in C is a very simple piece of music, very algorithmic. It's written in with arpeggios, and I just found out that this is a great piece to get visualized. So basically, the project is about transforming the notes into data, right? And then transforming the data into shapes and colors. And that was something I found very, very interesting for a long time. So I was really experimenting with that for many weeks. And, for example, here the pitch of the notes is just adjusting the rotations. And as you can see in this mock-up, of course, this has not been painted to a wall. This is just a mock-up because I wanted to showcase what would be possible in an artistic way if we just realize that project. But basically what you can see in this image here is the patterns that Bach created, right? So you could split this image here in the half, the image, this graphic, right? And it's basically repeating on the right side. Everything that's happening here on the left side is repeating at the right side. That was very interesting to see that these patterns just happen in the music of Bach, right? Mm-hmm. So, that was really nice. But of course, there are thousands of more possibilities making music or visualizing music with generative techniques. There are so many approaches. And I would love to have some time to dive into that again.
So the question is, any projects or projects planned in the future connecting music with design more? Mm-hmm. Just like you hope you have some time in the future. So do you have any plans for that one?
I'm thinking about a course about music visualization, but to be honest, that's very, very far away from the stuff that I'm currently doing. So I'm just trying to get the students from my courses really through the very, very basics of creative coding, right? And it's super difficult to come to a point where it's possible to really make those complex visualizations because there are so many steps that I have to cover. But that's basically the project I'm working on. And I think that's going to happen one day. I'm not really sure when.
I would say. Yeah, cool, Tim. Thank you very much for your time and being part of Talks. Super insights. I was really looking forward to that. So thank you.
Thank you very much and enjoy. Bye-bye.